Questions for reflection. In our first reading from the book of Genesis, we hear of the encounter between Jacob and the messenger of the Lord. Jacob was the son of Isaac and Rebekah, the second of the set of twins. He deceived his father at the urging of his mother and received the blessing over his brother Esau. But even that behavior did not impede God's saving plan from unfolding. In this account, we see Jacob encountering God through his messenger. That's what the word angel means. It occurred at Peniel. Peniel means the face of God. Jacob wrestled with God in that encounter. He is said to have seen God face to face, and in the encounter, his name was changed. This is significant. Names in the Bible connote relationship. Abram, Jacob's grandfather, had his name changed to Abraham and entered into a covenant with God. Genesis 17. Sarai, his wife, also had her name changed to Sarah. And now Jacob, who has his name changed to Israel. However, it gets somewhat confusing in the biblical text because the names are used interchangeably. The name Jacob means deceiver or heel catcher. He stole the blessing. But once he wrestles with God, once he truly encounters and sees the face of God, he becomes Israel. He is made new, purified, and becomes the recipient of a covenant, a promise. Not only is this true story a key to understanding how God chose Israel and through Israel was to reveal himself to all the nations, it can also be seen allegorically. In a sense, we are all called to wrestle with God, to encounter him. And in that encounter, we are changed. We are converted. Have you wrestled with God? The psalmist David was a man who regularly wrestled with God. He had an intimate life of prayer and communion with the living God. As we chanted in our psalm response, David invited the Lord, quote, to examine me at night. You test me by fire and find no evil. I've not sinned. With my mouth I call upon you, God. For you answer me. Turn your ear to me. Hear what I say, end quote. His prayer life, his communion with God was active. Is ours? The psalm continues, show the evidence of your faithful love, Savior of those who hope in your strength against attack. Guard me as the pupil of an eye. Shelter me in the shadow of your wings. But I in my uprightness will see your face, and when I awake, I shall be filled with the vision of you. These responsorial psalms we chant or say at every Holy Mass are to become for us a springboard into an encounter with God. Choose that encounter today. In the Gospel appointed for Holy Mass today, this relatively short excerpt from St. Matthew's account, Jesus openly confronts and defeats the devil. There were two different reactions. Some were overcome with awe, amazed, and recognized they'd never seen anything like this. Others, from among the Pharisees, committed blasphemy, actually attributing the work of God to the devil, saying that Jesus, God incarnate, drove out devils by the power of the devil. Wow! In the prior chapter in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 8, we find the story of Jesus driving out the demons which plagued two men in the territory of Gadarenes. These men were so depleted by the effects of evil that they chose to live in tombs. These accounts are two of many similar accounts in the Gospels. Yet how often do we hear sermons or teaching on the reality of evil, the existence of the devil, and how to confront the devil in our own lives and the lives of those around us? In his introduction to the Screwtape Letters, a brilliant work exposing the unseen spiritual warfare taking place all around us, Lewis uses a series of letters between two demons, the older Screwtape, an instructor, and the younger student Wormwood. The great apologist C.S. Lewis wrote these words, and I quote, "There are two equal and opposite errors into which our race can fall about the devils. One is to disbelieve in their existence. The other is to believe and to feel an excessive and unhealthy interest in them. They themselves are equally pleased by both errors and hail a materialist or a magician with the same delight," end quote. We are engaged in a spiritual war for the souls of men and women in this urgent hour. We face personal opposition from the devil in our own lives and the lives of those around us. We must always remember that the struggle we face, even though it works itself out on so many different fronts, is at root a spiritual one. The Apostle Paul wrote to the Christians in Ephesus, quote, "Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we are not contending against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the world rulers of this present darkness, against the spiritual host of wickedness in the heavenly places." He continues, "Therefore take the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand." That's in Ephesians 6. He also wrote these words to the Christians in Corinth, and I quote, "For though we live in the world, we are not carrying on a worldly war. For the weapons of our warfare are not worldly, but have divine power to destroy strongholds." That's from 2 Corinthians 10. We must stay close to Jesus through His Word, prayer, and frequent reception of the Holy Eucharist in order to engage in this spiritual battle. Are we doing this? Now is the time to begin.